This is Scott Davenport, Systems Engineer with Skyport Systems, and today I'm going to show you how to create a virtual secure admin workstation, or a vSAW, on the SkySecure platform. The first thing I want to point out is that the hardware that I'm going to create this VM on goes through an attestation process approximately every 6 hours. What we're doing here is making sure that there's no bots or rootkits on the hardware. Very important for ensuring that your hardware is in a known clean state before you deploy your critical VMs on it. So let's go ahead and create a compartment here, which is what we call a container that wraps around our VM. I'll call this vSAW1, for example. We are going to encourage/force you to make a security posture decision at the time you're creating this VM. And in this case, I'm going to do a whitelist mode because I want to block all traffic in or out of this admin workstation. I'm going to go ahead and use a clean ISO to build this with. You could use your own existing one, but it's probably a better practice to start from scratch and build a fresh one. That would go for domain controllers as well. Ensures that you have nothing that you don't want on the existing one. So this is an admin workstation, doesn't need very many resources. So I'm just going to need one CPU and 4 gig of RAM. We make these ISOs available to you, but you could, use your own. Create a new data store to pull these images from. Right, I'm just going to use the existing one in our content delivery network here. And as you can see, there is the SHA-256 hash for this ISO, right, for Windows 10 Enterprise. You'll use your own licensing key, your Microsoft Volume licensing, when you go this route. But we do make that ISO available there for you. Pick the hard drive size that you want. 40 gig is the default. Might be a little bit big, but 30 might be just as well. Where do I want it to live? In this case, it's going to live on the appliance itself, but it could live in a network data store as well. The connectivity mode, transparent. So that's just layer 2 bump in the wire, just like a typical firewall would be. Or I can do a NAT and go ahead and give that container a NAT IP address there if I need to as well. Either the secure server itself or an individual static IP address and name. That's it. Save and deploy, and I come back 10 minutes later, I'm going to have a functional VM, which would look like this. And then I'm going to, from there, I'm going to fine tune a little bit further. So let's go into an existing SAW here, Secure Admin Workstation. We have our own console that you can use, right, to get in there and administer the workload. But typically you would use RDP, and we'll go ahead and have to set that up as well. Remember now, when we first created this, we did a default whitelist. So all traffic inbound and outbound is going to be denied until we specifically say what is allowed. I'm going to give this a client role for Active Directory, which will allow it to join the domain. Because right now, remember, it can't talk at all, right, inbound or outbound. Also, I would enable this for potentially as a Windows Update client. What that means is this VM is allowed to go out and hit Windows Update and get its patches, but nothing else. You couldn't go out to ESPN or CNN or anything else, right? Just Windows Update here in order to get its patches. So with those two clicks there, I've now made it a domain client, right, and also a Windows Update client. And as you can see here, we've enabled the ports and protocols that are necessary for this device to participate in Active Directory. And it's all outbound, right? But this would be the same process if you were going to run one of your domain controllers on it. Okay, it would look very similar. Okay, now notice we also have, RDP out and RDP in. So I can fine tune who is allowed, and from what IP addresses to access, this vSAW, and then jump from there over into my workstation or my workload that I need to administer, typically Active Directory. Again, it's very simple to create these rules. We have inbound and outbound rules, remote desktops already enabled. We are a full web proxy there as well, so we can handle that aspect as well. Basic firewall rules so that we would wrap around each one of these individual VMs. Microsegmentation is very important if you subscribe to the fact that you potentially may already be owned, and I want to make sure that nothing is crawling around in my environment from side to side. So essentially that's it. Just that fast. I've created the VM, put a default security posture around it, and enabled it only for Active Directory use, Windows Update client, and then RDP traffic in and out. A few other things like DNS, obviously would be required, but you can see that it's pretty straightforward. If we go over to the image operations area over here, you can decide if you want this to be persistent or ephemeral, meaning that if I'm going to purge image changes on a restart of that image. That might be attractive for a secure admin workstation that you'd want to go that route. Set it for persistent when you're going to do your patching, right? And then switch it back to ephemeral. That way, if any changes happen to that admin workstation, they're going to be flushed. And you'll go back to that known good ISO that you started with. Finally, let's take a look at the traffic intelligence here. I'll go back to, say, a 15-minute range here. We do give you a full visibility into the workload, right? So from this container, my Contoso SAW, I can see traffic that's, remotely initiated into it, and that it's creating itself locally, that is blocked or allowed. So what we're seeing here is traffic that has simply been blocked, but you do have full visibility, right, of the traffic that's going in and out of that at VM. And I can also, let's switch back to all there. Should be some amount of allowed traffic in there. There we go. So now we can see both. So I can see if my policies are working or not. What's been allowed, what's been blocked, both inbound and outbound, and over time. Okay, so I can, as you can see now, I was on a 15-minute run, but I can bounce back to the beginning, let's say March 1st or February or whatever, and just that quick, 15-minute window there, a few months ago, and I can see what was going on there as well. Okay, so it'll bounce back. Let's actually do 15 minutes here. There we go. So that was the March 1st. Now I'm back to current here. So you can see there's my allowed traffic that happened just 15 minutes ago. So big data, we're crunching those numbers very quickly. As you can see, 6 months ago, 6 minutes ago, whatever, full traffic viewing capability, both inbound and outbound. Everything I did there has been recorded. So all those policies that were created are being logged, essentially for the life of this container. So anything I did there, as you can see here, will show who did it and when. 33 weeks ago, I made those changes. So all of that is fully tracked and logged essentially forever. So thank you for viewing that, and we'll look forward to seeing you on some of our short demos from the SkySecure Center. Thanks. Bye-bye.